Hey, before we looked at some of the electrical work that was done on the RV, I wanted to just go over some of the parts that were left over and some of the things we'd swapped out and just talk about that for a few minutes. One thing we have here is right here we have the old battery tray, which as you can see was a quickie. Pretty common battery trays that you find in here. Of course, this one has not been well taken care of, and so it received, you can see, quite a bit of rust, and it was quite a bit ate up. And these are pretty hard to come by. I've had a hard time locating one. Then of course you got to deal with the price, which I think this one place I could find it was about $150, $160. I decided to go a little different method in mine and go an enclosed system, which we'll look at using battery boxes, marine battery boxes. So here's the old tray. We tossed it. Now the other thing I did a complete rework on was of course, this aged RV had a Magnatech 6300 power distribution system in it, and of course, as you can see right here, if you can, if it comes in, you can see the word Magnatech right there. And so on these old power distributions, what you have is the circuit breakers for the 120, then you have the fuse panel for the 12 volt, and then you have the actual converter. And so first we'll look here. This is the old style 12 volt circuit breaker panel. And for all your 12 volt stuff, of course your fuses went in here. Now this is considered a linear one because it has what's known as a split bus, meaning half the buses were filtered, the other half weren't filtered, and then there were two separate power lines that came from the converter, one red and one blue. Of course, the one blue powered half the fuse panel. The other one powered the other half, which I believe is the non-filtered side, the red wire, as well as sending power to the back to recharge the batteries. So the newer ones are different. You can buy kits. I just bought the actual board. They do make kits to swap all these out. Of course, the new circuit breaker we'll look at, the new fuse panel for the 12 volt is linear. All the circuits are filtered, and as with all the newer converters, you only have two wires out. You have just a standard red and a black wire, or I believe red and a white wire coming out of them, or positive and negative. There's actually no wires coming out of them. You got to supply those. So with that, we changed that. Now here is the guts of a Magnatech 6300. This is the old converter. As you can see, pretty archaic by today's standards of what you get. Big converter right there. You had here, these were the two power wires. These were the right here. So this is the 110 that came off the 110 box. It's come off the 110 side of the power distribution box to run this. And then you had, of course, various arrays of, course, kind of interesting. I was kind of surprised to find it even had somewhat of a circuit board in it, even as this old. Of course, you know, all the new ones are all computer controlled. Of course, a lot of old mechanical stuff in here that you see in these. Of course, this made it 13 years. Now this one, the main reason I didn't like, what really attracted me to changing this one ground. It made a grinding noise. Of course, the fan, which is right here, is supposed to keep it cool, was dead. Probably been dead for the Lord knows how long, but it was totally dead. It didn't work. And then you have the outside on it. So here you have the wires as we spoke before. There's the white wire, which is the ground. There is the red wire, which went to the non-filtered side of the fuse bus, and also that was what ultimately went back to power to charge the batteries. And then you have the, if I can get it shown here, you have the blue wire. The blue wire then went, and this is actually what powered the 12 volt devices in the RV. Now, of course, in the new converters, all of that's been done away with. It's just straight two wires that go to it. And so I just wanted to, oh, there's another thing I wanted to show you. Of course, in my project, I added, this RV did not have an inverter. I added an inverter, so a handy little thing to see here. If you're not familiar with them, that's a Class T fuse, which is what you use. This is a 300 volt here. I didn't use this one because it's too much, because the converter I bought called for a 250. But when I bought the there's a big holder you have to buy that this fits into. It came with the fuse, so I had the extra fuse. So this is a standard Class T type fuse that you need, that runs between your battery and your inverter. And I put it on the positive side. There are various discussions that folks have that it's better on the negative side, positive side. Consensus seemed to be the positive side, so that's the side I went. Of course, that's just to protect if the short to protect your battery. Another thing, I had to change a couple of them in case I just thought I'd throw them in here if you've never seen them. Standard RV type 120 plug. You see in the back, much different than a residential. I don't know if it's for price or whatever. So you can see in the back there, basically they're just press in. You can see the little, if you can see them, there's a little set of tongs right there, and basically what happens, if I could use this wire as an example, you know, the wire just goes in there and just presses in there, the 120 wire, and they just press in there in the ground. Then there's a cap that goes on the back. Had a couple of these. The main problem was they were just getting loose. The plugs didn't want to stay in them just from age, so I replaced a couple of those. Pretty simple to do. Tough to get these wires out. Once these wires really get down inside these jaws, of course it's number 14 solid copper. They can be a little tough to get out and a little tough to get in. I'm assuming there's a device that pops these things in. My device was just a big screwdriver. Not that difficult to do, but again, I needed to replace them just because they got real sloppy with the plugs, so I replaced 2 or 3 of those. And so that's just a look at some of the stuff that came out of the RV. So next what we're going to do is go inside, go up to the RV, and we'll begin to look at some of the work that was done as far as conversion of some of the electrical work. So check out the next video on that, and I'll see you there.